Real estate is about freedom, choice freedom, time freedom, and money freedom, and the impact you can make with that freedom. But it doesn't come without cost. Your freedom takes work. That's why Neil Timmins brings together the tools you need to build your real estate legacy, from tips and tricks to interviews with industry titans. It's all here in one place. Real Grit. Let's get to it.
What if I told you can make 20 times the return of a single family fix and flip on your next big deal? Well, it's actually possible. It's possible inside the world of commercial real estate. Say, I'm inviting you to this free challenge. It starts August 15th. It's totally free. It's a 5-day challenge where I'm going to take you and deep dive into the world of commercial real estate, more specifically, capital multiplier properties, what that is, how we identify them. I'm going to show you how to identify them, how to evaluate them, and how to lock them up risk-free. I'm going to give you all the paperwork to do it. It's totally free. You can sign up to join us at www.20xprofitchallenge.com/real grit. That's www.20xprofitchallenge.com/real grit. And I'll see you in the challenge. You ever said I could use more money for a project? Well, who hasn't? Dave Dubeau is coming up on today's episode. He's a capital raiser. Now, that's not where he started. He talks about his journey, about all the things he did wrong, and then morphed into solving this problem for himself, raising money for his own real estate deals, and now how he helps others, how he's trained and shown and coaches and advises others on how to do it. So coming up today, Dave Dubeau. I've got Dave Dubeau here with me. I'm excited to have him because this will be a fun conversation surrounding, of course, real estate, but more specifically, capital raising. Dave, how are you?
Neil, I am fantastic and all the better for being here, having a chat with you today.
There's not many people further north of me in Iowa, but there's a few, and you're one up on the top hat up in Canada. So I'm glad you phoned in long distance for us to be able to to chat today. Where are you? I'm curious as to where are you in Canada?
I'm in beautiful British Columbia, Canada, about 3.5 hours north of Vancouver.
I'll be back in Vancouver here in April. I've got a trip planned with one of my friends. Beautiful. I mean, just absolute stunning beauty up in BC. So no, that's terrific. Were you born and raised there?
I was born and raised here, but I took a little hiatus and spent about 14 years in Latin America.
So, did you really?
Yeah, I lived in San Jose, Costa Rica for quite some time and came back to Canada in 2003. That's when I first got started with real estate investing.
Been to Costa Rica a whole bunch of times. No, that's terrific. Well, so speaking of real estate investing, tell me, we've all got a journey about how we got into this business. How in the world did you step foot into the business? Yeah,
well, I actually did a couple of what I guess we would call pre-foreclosure deals in San Jose, Costa Rica. They weren't called that, but that's basically what they were. Got my feet wet a little bit there. 2003, packed up my Costa Rican family, kicking and screaming, and dragged them up to the frozen tunderlands of British Columbia, Canada, and had to start all over again from scratch. I had a language training company in Costa Rica that I'd ran for 10 years. Hadn't been able to sell that when we moved. So I was starting all over again from scratch. The city I moved into, brand new city, no contacts, etc. I've been self-employed so long, I was pretty much unemployable. Mm-hmm. And I've been out of the country so long, I didn't have bad credit. I had zero credit. So it was all about, okay, what am I going to do here? And I don't know, Neil, do you remember back in the day, late night infomercials?
Oh, yeah.
You remember those?
Yeah, because I was a junkie. I barely bought any. I think I maybe bought one or two in my life, but boy, did I love watching them. Yes.
Well, I watched one. I remember I was stressed out late one night trying to figure out what the heck I was going to do. And I saw one of those gurus come on TV. You too can get rich in real estate with little or no money down. Perfect. I said, that's what I've got, little or no money. So I set away for the course, got it, and took massive action and did 18 deals in 18 months in and around the small city that I live in, which at that time had a population of about 80,000 people. So that's how I first got started in real estate. 2003 through 2005, that time frame.
Just incredible. Well, I got a couple questions, and then let's roll. What prompted you to move back to Canada?
Yeah, everybody asks that, especially Canadians. They go, Dave, there you were living the tropical paradise lifestyle, because as you're aware, Neil, in Latin America, you can live quite well on not that much money.
Yes.
So we had live-in maid and gardeners and all this kind of stuff. And then packed up the family, came up to Canada, and things changed radically.
Yes, right.
Here's why. You don't realize what you've got till you leave it.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time that we came back to Canada, my kids were getting to be towards school age.
Yep.
And my wife and I decided that as nice as Costa Rica is, Canada is a better, safer place to bring kids up. Being the pasty-faced white guy I am, in Latin America, whether you have money or not, people assume that you do.
Yep.
And there's a little bit of a target on your back and that of your family. And there's a much higher likelihood of getting kidnapped, held for ransom, that sort of thing there than here. So that's really why we moved.
Well, you don't hear a lot about that. I think the countries do a pretty good job because tourism is such a tremendous dollar contributor to their entire economy.
Definitely.
Those aren't stories that like to get out.
No, and it doesn't happen that much, especially in Costa Rica. It's relatively safe. Right. But I know 3 people it has happened to. So it does happen.
You know what? That's 3 more than I know.
There you go.
18 deals in 18 months. What kind of deals were you doing?
Some really crappy ones.
Okay.
and a few good ones. So it was finding motivated property sellers and doing creative ways of getting them out of their situation. So anywhere from little crappy mobile homes and mobile home parks where I'd make a couple of grand on a deal, all the way up to executive type homes where, I think the best deal I did at that time was $35,000, $40,000 in profits. So all sorts of different, late night, type options and lease options, rent own type deals, assuming the deed for $1 type thing.
Yes.
Those kind of strategies. So I had a lot of fun with that.
A lot of versatility there. You know what? I think a lot of people, when you get into the business, you're like, how can I just do anything? How can I just cut my teeth, making $1, figuring it out? And then sooner or later, you start refining strategies and figuring out, what is it that I really like? And then, what do I really not like doing? And find and carve your own path. So bring me forward a few years. You got through that was in 2003-ish. Bring me to, the 2009 era when everything went to HELL. What was that like in your world?
Wasn't that bad for me, Neil. I'm up here in Canada. We did not get whacked the same way the folks in the States did. Plus, by that time, I'd kind of transitioned. I had connected with an up-and-coming guru here in Canada, kind of Canada's version of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Yeah. And he saw I had a bit of a background in marketing and real estate investing. So we joined forces. I kind of helped him with his marketing and took some time off of active real estate investing for a number of years. Jumped back in around 2010. And this time, still kind of in the creative realm, I started doing what I called tenant first or client first rent to own deals, lease option type deals, where we'd find a good tenant buyer, go buy them a house, lease option it to them for 2 to 3 years while we help them get qualified to buy it. So did about a dozen of those kind of deals, and then just kind of gradually transitioned into multifamily type deals and realized that I really suck at dealing with tenants and toilets, Neil. So I choose to partner with people that are good at that stuff, and I bring other skills to the table.
Other skills, one of them being dollars and cents. What every deal needs is money, right?
Yeah, which I had to learn the hard way, Neil. And I'd like to say I was just a natural at it, but I wasn't. In fact, I sucked wind big type. I remember it vividly. I was doing those tenant first rent own deals. Yeah. And like a lot of people, I self-financed my first couple of properties. By that time, I'd been in the country long enough and good enough income and all that kind of stuff that I qualified for mortgages and could come up with some down payments. But sooner or later, you hit the wall. You run out of cash. You run out of credit.
Anybody who's growing. Yep.
Yeah. What next, right? And I remember I'd heard a lot of gurus say, hey, you know what, Dave? If you find a good deal, the money will find
come.
You.
Yep.
The money, it sounded like the field of dreams type of thing, right? To build it and they will come. And so that's what happened. I had this perfect tenant buyer couple land on my lap. We found them a house. Everything was looking great. Needed to raise $85,000 for that deal. And I had 2 weeks to come up with the money. I had the property tied up. I had to get financing within 2 weeks to close on it. And that's when I started scrambling because I realized, hey, the universe isn't just going to hand me 85 grand. I have to get off my rusty dusty and do something for it.
Yeah.
So I took some of the guru's advice and I'd also read, hey, if you need to raise money quickly, pick up that phone and start dialing for dollars. And Neil, I don't know if you've got a sales background or not. I don't know if you ever saw the show, the movie, The Wolf of Wall Street, but I think it was coming out around that time.
Yep.
Leonardo DiCaprio made it look like it was a lot of fun to pick up that phone and call people up and sell them stuff. So I was like, hey, how tough can this be? Got a great deal. I got a phone. Here we go. So I picked up the phone, called, rejected. And I'd love to be able to tell you that I just kind of ground it out and crushed it, but I didn't. I got my feelings hurt.
Yeah.
And really didn't like that much rejection. So I quit calling. And then I remember somebody else saying, hey, if you want to raise capital quickly, you have to go out there and you have to network, you have to schmooze, you have to turn every conversation into a real estate conversation. And
shake hands, kiss babies.
There you go. Yep. You know, elevator pitches, 30-second commercials, all that stuff. So that's what I did. Ran out to our local Chamber of Commerce meeting and Business Networking International and Toastmasters, wherever the heck they'd let me in the door. I went and did my little spiel, my song and dance, and guess how much capital I raised?
Yeah. That's where I was headed with this. Yeah.
Big fat zero. So then, you know, I was running out of time very quickly there, Neil. Right. And that's when I came up with what I thought was a brainstorm because I was in a desperate headspace. And I said, hey, you know what? This is a really good deal. I just need to get it in front of enough people. If enough eyeballs see this deal, it's so good, it's going to sell itself. So basically, I put together a contact list of everybody I could think of, and I spammed everybody the deal. And basically it was like, hey, I got this deal. I need 85 grand. Have you got it? If so, let me know, kind of thing. And I can remember I had to come up with the money by Friday. This is Wednesday night. I sent this out. Thursday morning, I took a look at my inbox and I had a number of replies. This was the first thing that showed any signs of life. Yeah. And I was so thrilled. And then I started looking at these replies, Neil, and they pretty much all said, hey, Dubeau, I haven't heard from you in like forever. And here you are, hit me up for cash for some wonky real estate deal. Take a hike.
Yeah.
And so bottom line, I had to withdraw my offer on that property. And I live in a fairly small town, so major egg on my face. Obviously, I ticked off the seller, ticked off my realtor, their realtor. My tenant buyer had given me a $15,000 option fee. Obviously, that had to go back to them. Plus, they'd given notice where they were renting. So we had to scramble around to make sure we could find them a roof over their head.
Yeah.
And that's when I said, you know what? I never want to be in this situation again. This whole find a good deal and the money will find you is BS.
Yep.
What I want to do instead is I want to get my investor ducks in a row. I want to get a number of investors lined up first and then go looking for the deals. And then I won't be stressed out about it. Does that make sense, Neil? So
spot on.
So that's when I started working on, and I had a background in marketing. So I said, hey, Dunderhead, what are you doing? Right? Why don't we apply some of this smart marketing stuff you've used for so many other things? Why don't we apply this towards raising capital? So that's what I did. And it worked really well for me for those single family home deals, raised just under $1 million for those kind of small deals, then got up into the multifamily properties, raised several millions of dollars. Then I started working as a consultant and helping other people to do that. And cumulatively, our clients have raised well over $300 million and counting for their deals following the same process.
Absolutely incredible. Isn't it interesting that the genesis, I think I'm going to go someplace with this. Yeah. Oftentimes, when something bad happens, we think, why is this happening to me? Right? I can't believe this happened. What you did was you took it as a learning experience. You grounded yourself to go, I know there's opportunity here. I know I just didn't capitalize the opportunity and I never want to let this happen again. And if it's happening to me, you eventually turn into a business to go, it's happening to other people and other people have the same problem that I have.
Sounds a little bit like my first marriage. Got it much better the second time around.
There you go. Get it right. Yes.
Yeah, that's right, man. That's right.
I'm not saying I'm a learner. I'm not saying I'm a slow learner, but I'll get there sooner or later, right?
Exactly. I might be a slow learner too. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. All right. So what did you do? All right. At the high level, don't give me, I don't need all the secret sauce because I can imagine there's a lot of inner working, inner pieces, just like any business to be able to get something executed on. But maybe bring me current, on the deal you did next, how in the world you guys raise money, or what do you do now? Well, how do you help people?
Well, you know what? I did a lot of stupid stuff in that scenario there, Neil. The one smart thing I did was coming up with that list of prospective investors, like my existing network. Now, the dumb thing I did was I spammed them all my deal right off the get-go. But, coming up, really focusing on your pre-existing relationships as a starting point is the way to go. So that's really kind of the cornerstone of what we do for our clients is we help them to really connect with their existing network and raise capital from them. Because quite frankly, most of us have somewhere between $1.5 and $3 million worth of capital within our network already. We just have to figure out who's got it and how to access it. So that's the starting point. Create a list of your existing contacts. We call this your dream 200. Try to come up with about 200 people, which sounds intimidating, but it's really not that hard. If you look at all your social media contacts, your contacts on your phone, et cetera, et cetera. If you whittle it down, it's pretty easy to come up with 150 to 200 people. And then we focus on those folks, but we don't charge in like Dumb Dave did back in the day, just with, hey, I got this deal. Have you got any money? We want to be a little bit more classy, right? We want to take people out for drinks and dinner first before we go for the kill. So we want to warm them up, so to speak. And then the other big thing was not to always be pitching deals. And I know that sounds counterintuitive because we're trying to raise capital for real estate, but really it's about edutaining communication, constant, consistent, edutaining communication. So ideally, this is something I had to learn the hard way, Neil. Mm-hmm. Ideally, what we're sending out is a little bit educational and hopefully a little bit entertaining. Because what I learned the hard way, Neil, is you and I and your followers, your listeners, are what I affectionately and lovingly call real estate weirdos. Our investors are regular human beings. They are not listening to real estate investing podcasts. They're not eating, drinking, sleeping real estate 24/7. They're doing their own thing. So if we try to, force feed them all of the real estate knowledge from our noggins and try to cram it into them, we're going to turn them off. So at the end of the day, what I figured out is most of our investors want to get the gist of it. And they want to know that you and I definitely know our stuff. Mm-hmm. So if we have that in mind, then that changes the whole way we market. Instead of trying to, force feed everybody all of our knowledge, it's all about creating curiosity. It's all about piquing that interest. It's all about getting people to raise their hand and say, hey, Neil, that real estate thing you're doing, that sounds kind of cool. I'd like to find out more. Then you having that conversation is so much easier versus us chasing after people, trying to convince them to invest in our deals. Does that make sense, Neil?
It totally makes sense. Dave, real estate's sexy, isn't it?
I think so, but not everybody feels the same way.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. What has you say that? I think it's sexy. I think it's easy to have conversations surrounding real estate. They don't want to go as deep as you and I and the rest of the weirdos will go. The relationship you have and the relationship you continue to build with a person, that trust, that bond is more important oftentimes than the deal, I would expect.
You know what? You're absolutely right, Neil. And somebody way smarter than me years ago said, at the end of the day, your investors are investing in you and the property is just the collateral for that investment. So that's very, very true. They're investing in their trust in you, that you know what you're doing with their money.
Yeah. They're not going as deep as you and I will ever go. That is required of us to go.
Exactly. Right. Well, that's why we're getting paid the big bucks. We are the expert and we're joining forces with these folks who want the benefits of investing in real estate without the headaches and the hassles of having to learn it all, having to deal with tenants, toilets, etc.
What I hear you saying, reading between the lines, this is largely about positioning and then to a degree, content marketing, educating and being entertainment at the exact same time.
Exactly. And instead of chasing after people, let's create that curiosity. Let's get them to put up their hand. Let's get them to come to us, ideally booking a meeting on our calendar. And then we have that conversation. We get them enrolled that way.
I'll say that just slightly differently so it connects it to a different segment of the audience. If you think about any property you've ever gone and bought, if you're chasing versus a seller coming to you, you're positioned totally differently.
Absolutely. It's a night and day situation for sure. And that's the big benefit of using intelligent edutaining marketing is that does the heavy lifting for you. It gets people coming to you already slightly pre-educated, pre-motivated, predisposed, and in certain ways pre-qualified to invest.
About Dave, you said, $1 to $3 million in my network. I need more than that. I need to scale my business. We're already taking money from people here and there, but I want to hit the next level. Is that something that you help folks with? Is there a limit to how far somebody can go when it comes to raising money and when it comes into what it is that you teach and share with them?
No, there is no limit to what you can do with raising money. I mean, you've seen what all the big guys are doing. We do have a specific niche, though. We really, really focus on the mom and pop real estate investor who's just getting started, wants to raise their first 6 figures in the next few months, and their first 7 figures up to $1 million, maybe $2 million over the course of a year. That's our sweet spot. Once we help people do that, then they're ready to start syndicating. They're ready to start looking for accredited investors, that sort of thing, which we don't do much around that at this point.
It's interesting when I look and hear people raising lots and lots of money. Oftentimes it sounds kind of cool, but when I start peeling back the layers of that onion, if you will, it doesn't at times, depending on how the deal's structured, it may not be very cool. Oftentimes doing a smaller deal can be more fruitful and allow one to have more control than doing a bigger deal because you're giving up just so much to that end investor and you end up losing some control along the way. You oftentimes you end up becoming in my mind, a glorified employee for that investor.
I think you're absolutely right, Neil. That's the best way I've heard it expressed in a long time. These really big syndications, when you really crunch the numbers, I don't know if you've seen this, but a lot of the times the GP, the way they're making their money is on acquisition fees and all these different little fees. Their share of the actual equity is so small, or it's going to take so long for them to actually make a return on it, that they're really basing almost everything they do on making these fees. And I don't know, that doesn't really sit right with me.
Yeah, as soon as you get into that business, in my mind, it's a totally different business. You're making money on the acquisition. You've got to put something together. You're, arguably in my mind, you're not really an investor at that point. You're some sort of, you're selling a good for a profit and versus, putting your own money in the line or putting some of your own money in the line and operating an investment for a yield, a benefit over the period of years. Which really an investor. Yeah. So
Neil, forgive me because I'm not super familiar. Yeah. What do you focus on when it comes to the kind of investments you guys are doing, and what are you transitioning into?
Yep, great question. So I came out, I'll give you the whole backstory is I cut my teeth in brokerage as a single family house broker. I transitioned to single family investor over years. And then now over, the course of the last 4 years into commercial real estate. So we still fix and flip in my office, although I'm largely not involved in that. That generates now money that can be deployed on the commercial side of things. And so we own in my backyard, multiple asset classes, multifamily, retail, office, industrial, and then in other markets with partners through various other asset classes, self-storage being one of them that comes to mind.
Right. Yeah. So you've seen that. You've probably seen that at the end of the day, you get a bigger bang. You personally get a bigger bang for your buck with some of these smaller deals, especially self-storage type deals, than you might with one of these bigger syndication type deals that you're just one of the small partners of.
You're exactly right. Yep. And so my wheelhouse is mom and pop commercial real estate, which is it's mom and pop capital raising.
Exactly. Well, okay. So here is something that you can be looking at, Neil, for sure. And that is getting referrals from your base of investors to their networks, because people with money tend to hang out with other people with money.
Yep.
If you're doing a good job with them and they're happy, then it's really quite simple. It's quite straightforward to get to A, testimonials, and B, referrals to their network. And that is definitely the shortcut. Once you got 1, 2, 3, 4 investors on board, that's how you can really start snowballing things.
In all of your experience dealing with the clientele you deal with, other investors going out and raising capital for the first time, what's the thing up here that in their head? What holds them back from being able to hit their next stride, hit their next level?
Yeah, the big thing is the imposter syndrome, right? So who am I as a mom and pop real estate investor? I've only got 1 deal, 2 deals, 3 deals, 4 deals, 5 deals, 10 deals, whatever it is under my belt. I see these guys like Grant Cardone, who's got gazillions of doors under management, et cetera. I see all these podcast hosts. I see all of these people who are so much further ahead than I am. Who am I to ask people for money, or who's going to invest with little old me, right? So that's probably the number one mindset thing that people have a hard time getting over, because again, as real estate weirdos, as I affectionately call us, we're seeped in this stuff. We're listening to podcasts, We're attending webinars, we're buying courses from the gurus. We think that that's normal. But here's the reality. The reality is, at least the statistics I've seen, is 95% of the general population has never purchased a revenue property before in their lives. So if you've got even one successful little revenue property deal under your belt, you're already ahead of 95% of your non-real estate friends. Right. And that's the other challenge. We tend to hang out with a lot of other real estate investors, right? But outside of that group, the general population, most people have no clue about real estate investing. They have no clue about the huge benefits of real estate versus everything and any other investment class out there. So it's up to us to show them the light, if you ask me. And we're doing them a huge favor by bringing them on board as investor partners. That's the other mindset thing is it's all people kind of get really focused on me. I need the money to grow my portfolio. Well, yeah, that's true. But at the same time, if you're doing like a basic joint venture, say you're doing a small single family home or duplex, you bring one investor partner on board as a joint venture partner and you're sharing the profits 50-50. Well, now you're providing a massive benefit for them as well. It's a two-way street.
Yeah, that shift in mindset to what can I do for somebody else and how do I communicate to them? It really goes a long way in terms of attracting whatever it is that you want.
Definitely. Yeah. I do a fun exercise with people, Neil, that I call the lifetime worth of an investor. Mm. And when you understand two things, when you understand, number one, how much an investor is worth to you and your business over the lifetime of your working relationship, that is a mind-boggling number. And then number two, when you flip it around and you realize how much you are worth to your investor partners over the lifetime of the two of you working together, that is another mind-boggling number. So it really is, if you do it right, it's a win-win scenario.
It's a win-win. Yep. Let's do this. I want to move on to the final segment, what I call for impact. Your favorite quote, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. Henry Ford said it. What about that resonates most with you?
Well, Ford was a pretty smart guy, but he did all right for himself.
Yes.
Right? And I don't know, Neil, I have just found this to be so true for myself personally, right? I still struggle with some mindset stuff from time to time. I do not claim to have things dialed in. And when I'm facing a challenge, when I'm feeling insecure, when I'm feeling scared about something, this is a good quote to look back on because it's so true, right? Whether we think we can or we think we can't, we're probably right. So, I mean, let's keep the positive momentum going.
You're absolutely right. What do you think holds most investors back from hitting their personal next level?
Well, self-servingly, I'm going to say a lack of capital, but bottom line, That is. I mean, at the end of the day, there's only so much you can do under your own financial steam. And I know a lot of folks, they think, well, I'll flip a bunch of houses, create a nice nest egg, and then go invest that. Yeah, you can do that. Nothing wrong with that. However, there's a shortcut. Why not just go straight for what you want to be doing by bringing on investors and joint venture partners? Sure, you're going to have to do more deals, but once you've got that dialed in, capital is virtually unlimited. So it doesn't need to hold you back. So I don't know. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, spot on. That's great. Yeah. Outside of real estate, what are you most passionate about?
My wife and I love traveling. We just got back from a trip to Spain and Portugal, had a fantastic time heading down to Mexico. Now that I'm looking out the window now, it's getting kind of a lot of white stuff floating around here in Canada. Yeah. So we love traveling.
What's your favorite way to make an impact in the community?
You know what? I really love this kind of stuff, Neil. I've got my own podcast, the How to Raise Capital 101 show for real estate investors. Yeah. I do teaching and training around that. I really get a kick out of this. And, on more of a personal level, locally, I'm involved with my local Rotary Club, that sort of thing. So a couple of different ways I like to give back.
Yeah. One of the things we launched this year was the Real Grit Vault, a vault of tools, resources from folks just like yourself to be able to help our audience move along. And I understand you've got a contribution to the vault. Maybe share a little about that and what it is for folks.
Yeah. So if you think it would be helpful, Neil, I've got a brand new tool that I've created for our clients that I call the Ultimate Investor Enrollment Script, because this is one of those hangups people have is, okay, how do I go about having an effective conversation with somebody about investing with me? What do I say? What do I do? How do I present it? Should I just grab a pad of paper and a Sharpie and draw some pictures? Should I have a formal presentation? Should I have a bunch of graphs and charts and spreadsheets? How do I start the conversation? How do I get people engaged? How do I actually get them to give me a solid answer instead of let me think it over at the end of the conversation? So I've created this template for folks called the Ultimate Investor Enrollment Script, and I'm going to be happy to provide that PDF for your folks.
No, that's wonderful. I appreciate that contribution to the vault. And anybody who wants to get that, you can get it at www.realgritvault.com. Dave, maybe one or two more questions for you. I'm curious, are you ever moving back to Costa Rica?
Been there, done that, my friend.
Yeah. All right.
No, it's a wonderful country.
Yeah, the journey's behind you. I got it.
The journey's behind. I've got too many ex-in-laws there.
I see. Now I'm getting the picture here. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. No, it's wonderful. For people, they want to find you, they want to follow you, they want to connect with you, they want to find the podcast. Where can they go? What should they do?
Yeah, you know what? Probably the best thing for your listeners to do, seeing that you're listening to this or watching this as a podcast, is to check out my podcast, the How to Raise Capital 101 show for real estate investors. That's a mouthful, I know. But here's what's kind of cool, Neil. The first 9 episodes of the show are like a mini course going through this whole, what I call my money partner formula. There's 9 steps to the money partner formula. The first 9 episodes are kind of like a little mini course. You don't need to opt in or anything like that. Just listen to them on your podcast station of choice.
Oh, that's wonderful. Great. We'll make sure we get a couple of those links below to where they can get to find that podcast. Dave, I appreciate you taking the time to connect here. It's a wonderful story about, how you got into real estate to begin with, and then the trouble that so many people run into is that sooner or later, I don't care what level you play at, sooner or later, you need capital from other people. And so
definitely that's the key.
You lived it and then had to go out and solve it. Now you've helped other people to the tunes of hundreds of millions of dollars help solve it. And I'm with you. It's not just a benefit for those raising the dollars and cents, but it's a giant benefit to those who get to place their dollars and cents in opportunities that we create for them.
Absolutely, my friend. Well, thank you so much for having me on your show. Keep up the good work. I love what you're doing here with your podcast. Thank you so much, Neil.
Oh, thank you, Dave. I appreciate it. I'm Neil Timmins, for everybody here at Real Grit, reminding you that real estate requires real grit. See you next time. What if I told you you can make 20 times the return of a single family fix and flip on your next big deal? Well, it's actually possible. It's possible inside the world of commercial real estate. Say, I'm inviting you to this free challenge. It starts August 15th. It's totally free. It's a 5-day challenge where I'm going to take you and deep dive into the world of commercial real estate, more specifically capital multiplier properties, what that is, how we identify them. I'm going to show you how to identify them, how to evaluate them, and how to lock them up risk-free. I'm going to give you all the paperwork to do it. It's totally free. You can sign up to join us at www.20xprofitchallenge.com/real grit. That's www.20xprofitchallenge.com/real grit. And I'll see you in the challenge. If you like our content and want more, you can access it at realgritpodcast.com. You hear it guest after guest. Instinctively, you already know it. But let me call it out. The most expensive action is inaction. The real estate market is full of opportunities. You just need to uncover them. You can build a business that lasts for years, makes monumental impact in the lives of those that you love. It's not just about business, but about the freedom you get because of it. Have you ever heard the saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I believe that partnering is essential. In fact, I partner with hardworking investors all the time. The point is that you can get a lot further with the right partner. Let me say it again, the right partner. If you've ever thought about partnering with anyone, or if you have a partner now, I encourage you to download my free Partner and Profit Guide, which includes the top 5 must-answer questions to evaluate a profitable partnership. You can find it at www.legacyimpactpartners.com. I'll see you in the next episode.